All right. Let's get this out of the way first. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast are solely those of the speakers, guests, and host, and do not in any way represent the thoughts or views or opinions of any other employer, partnership, or sponsor. The material and information in this podcast is for general information purposes only. It should be used at the listener's discretion. Action.
Hey guys, welcome back to Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast. You're with Chris and Angie again. We got a couple of our sponsors I have to go through real quick. Rescue One CBD.
Let me just say, you don't have to go through them. We get to go through them.
We get to, so I don't have to.
We are too blessed to be stressed.
We are #blessed. Rescue One CBD. Thank you so much. 15% off. Use the code Tailboard. Buy me a coffee button, which none of you guys have ever supported yet. Since I've seen it. So here I am yelling at you. Please buy us some coffee.
Okay.
Then we have Frontline Optics.
If that works, I'll be so impressed.
If people just like ding, 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 all these people just start donating.
Whoa, Angie.
Thanks so much.
Nags me.
Well, I will keep nagging because I do love me some coffee.
All right.
I did bring my awesome commanders today from Frontline Optics.
Pomona commanders.
Is that the ones you have?
So the model is Pomona.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Then the commander is the finish on them.
Pomona.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was right. They're gold.
Yeah.
And they're amazing. And they are in shape still. And guess what? You guys, if you ever break them, they replace them. No questions asked. The most amazing thing that you could ever ask in a product.
Uh-huh.
And then
15% off with code Tailboard.
Yep. Tailboard. 15% off. And then we just finished our 14-ish.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully those people are continuing it.
Probably
Great
not.
job.
Lord knows we aren't.
Yeah, I know. Like I said before.
But that's not the point of it.
No.
The point of it is to try it out for 2 weeks, get back to your fundamentals, get back to baseline, feel a little bit good, and then maybe ease back into the bad stuff.
Yep.
Like we talked about that recess company, side notes, and they have hey, how about just make it what they call a damp March.
Yeah.
Whereas
yes, a damp March.
So that's what I'm doing now. Instead of drinking every night, excluding shift nights, where I'm not
damp.
at work, I don't drink.
Not dry, damp.
Just the weekends. Have a drink or two on the weekends. So the 14-ish was a nice segue into that. No drinking for 2 weeks after the first night.
I was just going to say.
After 6 hours after it started.
You
and then now we're just doing a damp March, April. We'll see how it goes. So.
All right. Well, that's awesome.
Right?
Yeah. So that finished. The people who did it, thank you guys so much for participating. We're very excited. Just be patient with us with sending you your gift. Because
I'm still trying to talk Angie into getting you a cheaper one.
Which isn't going to happen.
Because the gift is
very nice.
Pretty nice.
I like it.
Pretty nice.
It's not going to happen, though. No, you're going to get it, but he's not going to talk me out of it. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So
it's so nice that I said that's way too much money to spend on these people, but get us 2 of them.
Exactly.
That's how
but
nice
we're worth it.
Yeah, right.
So this episode, we're going to be talking about perspectives and
Wait, there's one more thing.
There is? Oh, FDIC.
Yeah, you just shocked the
world
with this.
I
this
did.
news.
I shocked the world. Chris and I will be underneath the Firefighter Nation booth April 7th at FDIC. We will be interviewing via our Beyond the Headlines podcast. So this isn't from, this podcast you're listening to right now, but the one we have underneath Firefighter Nation. And we'll be interviewing some of the talkers or keynote,
vendors, presenters, friends of Firefighter
whatever
Nation.
Adjective, noun, whatever.
Good talk.
You want to?
We're going to brush up on that before April 7th, but we'll be there. We'll be in the Firefighter Nation booth.
Come see us.
Yeah, come say hi. We'll maybe order some stickers by then. I'm sure we'll have Firefighter Nation stuff to give out. If not, sorry, Stephanie, for committing you to that, but. That'll be cool. We'll be doing live and in-person podcasts there as long as we can. We're there for one day.
Yeah, we're only there for one day.
Long drive out there, be out there all day, pestering them,
Yep.
Making enemies, and then driving back. So, all right, now we'll get into your topic.
Yes. So, my apologies. The other day, I was in a situation where I essentially reacted to something that I didn't expect myself to react that way to because of how I felt, prior to this situation. And
what? Can we translate that?
Yeah. So
you used to say, I'll never react that way, and then you
I would never feel that way for this. In fact, you want that.
Yeah, and
now it happened with me in that position, and I was angry.
I was like, that way.
I was like, oh,
yeah,
angry Angie.
Yep.
And I didn't expect myself to be angry about it. And so me and Chris talked about that a little bit. And we thought it would be a great idea to talk to other people about other things and perspectives that have changed throughout your career in the fire service, whether you've been in for 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, because things do change over time. Mm-hmm. Perspectives change.
Sneak up on you.
Yep,
right?
Totally. So we did ask you guys if you could please send us some, and some of you did.
All right. So we narrowed it down.
Yep.
We got 2 from the listeners that we narrowed down, and then we each have 1 or 2. The first one was somebody wrote in and said, when I first started, I was in a part-time department, and I was like super into the job, and my friend group there was super into the job, total buffs, right? Had to move, went to a new department, and it was like the opposite. Like guys were there for the paycheck, guys that were disinterested, nobody was doing like crew stuff.
Yep, no pride.
Total bummer. He perceived it as no pride, no ownership kind of thing. That was like a chapter of his life, and then he's in a new department now, and he's like, it's back to what I loved, you know. Mm-hmm. And his perspective that changed was like he expected everybody to be into the job like he was his first couple years at that department. So going to that other department was like a major shift for him. That was a real bummer and eye opener. But I think he had a second perspective shift when he's like, okay, it is still out there.
Right.
It's just department or station, even station, right? So
right.
What were you thinking about that one? What came up with that one?
I just completely resonated with him, only because, I think that in the beginning I always heard the word fisty. Like people would say fisty,
yeah,
right?
Dude,
like call
that's
people
a Midwest
fisty.
term, just so you know.
Okay, well I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know what fisty meant. I was like, what's fisty?
That's
they're
even
like
a regional term.
They're really into the jobs. Like these guys that would sit, after lunch in the computer room and would literally watch like fire porn, basically, and just like listen to the radio all day and stuff like that. And in my opinion, I was like, what's wrong with that? Yeah. There ain't nothing wrong with that. I love that. Like, I love how much they love to listen and like do this. And to me, it was like, you're doing something to better yourself. You're so into this job. I felt like it was so admirable to people, like for people to be that way. And I found it to be, from some people, not everybody, a negative perspective, because then they're calling you fisty or salty or whatever it may be. And so, I resonated with him because I was in the same situation, and I ended up going to a conference, and that's when I found that there are still people in this job.
Still fisties.
Still fisty, yeah, but they are into the job.
Yeah.
You just have to find those people.
Yeah, they're out there.
They're out there.
Right? The fisties, the tryhards. Now I'm on team tryhard. I recognized early on, and some of my friends are on it too, that like I cannot do something purposefully half-assed. Like, if I try to play cool or be like cool guy or like brush something off or not do something, like kind of what happened to the bike race a couple months ago, or last month or whatever. Even with this stuff, like if I'm just like, I'll just bring it out. I'll bring out the microphone and the computer when it matters. Like I'm not going to check it or anything like that. I always feel unsettled, unprepared, something. I'll like charge that the night before. I'll go through the files, make sure they're deleted. I'll go through the computer, make sure that like the old one's wiped out and it can still open it. That's a level of like attention I need to give to things to be successful. It goes with like hockey or biking or anything, right? And that's what we were when I was on my part-time department. We were a bunch of tryhards, but yeah, there was a group that were like fisties that we'd still talk smack about, right? Because they were like gremlin people.
Yeah, that's basically how they like talk.
People.
How they talk about it.
Yeah.
It's just like it's crazy.
Little lichen people.
Well, like, and then if you're coming in as a layperson, like, at least I was first generation coming into this, so I don't know any background of it.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting in class and you read about the brotherhood and like how things are and how close it's a family. You get like whatever, and then you go into it and it's like, what happened? There's that.
Yeah.
Where is it?
It can. Yeah. It's so dynamic from station to station, right? And a lot of it has to do with like the history of that station or department. If that whole thing got squashed by bad leadership or bad people coming through or whatever. There's a million different reasons why it is or isn't there, right? But it is also, largely dependent on the 4 people around you, what your dynamics going to be.
That is what
right?
I have learned. I have learned that too.
The quality of people in your station.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be amazing fireground performers, just the quality of people. Like, that's what will make a huge difference in your career. And you can always work on skills, right?
Right.
But there's some intangibles of personality that If they're not there, your day is way different.
Yeah.
And your department's way different, you know. So
I think I've noticed if you get a crew that's more close in age
and younger in general.
You're going to find a good dynamic.
Yeah, we had that talk with one of our guys recently got a probation, and we were talking about that, and I said, it's just that you're around adults now. It's just, the bummer is that we're adults.
Oh, what happened?
Yeah, I agree. I had fun times when I was on my part-time department too, because it was me and 3 other guys living in a house together, and we were all going through medic school at the age of 21 to 25, and we were all single, and it was
rowdy,
just a disaster.
And now
right?
you're 40.
And now I'm 40, and it's not that. It's totally different. So when you go to work with those guys and we're working part-time shifts together, the vibe just continues to the station, you know?
Yeah.
It's not where you are now. You're with guys who have been working for 25 or 30 years and they're ready to leave, and you're coming in with your dumb pit vipers on, looking for a party. But I'm just saying, it's different, right? So it's a dynamic.
My lieutenant tricked me the other shift. And he was like, because I had to call him before that came out, and I was like, look, dude, I just want you to know, like, I'm not talking about you.
Yours
like,
look great.
You look great.
Your pit vipers are amazing.
And I gave him a pair, because I bought a pair for the ski jump, and we had wigs on and all this stuff and whatever. And I was like, you can have these. I'm like, I hate them because they turn everything purple. Well, he has like a few, and I'm like driving the engine last shift, and he was like, I'm like, I left my freaking glasses over there. And he was like, well, these don't make them purple. Go ahead. I totally set myself up. I put them on, and he takes a picture of me.
Wearing like the pit viper things?
Blackmail. Yeah, wearing pit vipers.
God,
and I was like, this is blackmail.
You get that? That was an Italian joke.
Oh, like Mario.
No, like they match your mustache because you're...
Okay, first of all, I am the least hairiest Italian ever.
Part 2. Somebody else submitted one that said, when I was younger in my career, I was very concerned about my own personal training and like making myself an amazing firefighter and my ability and capacity and all that stuff, right? Then they got promoted and said, turns out now my focus is on the crew. Like how good can I lead my crew and how well can I train my crew to make them well-rounded?
Right, like the focus is no longer me.
Major perspective shift, right? Mm-hmm. When do you think you're going to start caring about other people? Go.
When I'm an officer.
Oh, nice. So you're not.
Just kidding. I always care about
other people.
No, I always care about other people.
Yeah.
I always care. Anytime I can, I always just go through what I didn't know in the beginning, and I ask, like, whoever's just coming on or something. For example, our newer EMTs. Hey, what are things that you haven't done? What are things that you have done? And then I will work with them sometimes with things that they haven't done. So I do still care. In my, position as a blue shirt, I still care about what I'm doing for other people. But, it is an interesting thing is because officers and lieutenants and stuff, you all still have to continue learning, right? You guys all still, it's not like, no, you get to a point and it's like, I know everything now. And then
so what happens
like,
is,
when does that change? Like, when is that shift where you're like, I'm done? Like, it's not like, like, you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because, let's say you get promoted on Thursday, right? Wednesday, you don't know anything. And then Thursday, you know everything. Like it's just, they put the new badge on and they download it. It's like the Matrix. Like, oh, I know Kung Fu. I don't know, man. I'm not there, so I don't know. I don't think it does. I mean, there's always going to be new stuff. And if nothing else, you're always going to have new people. So even though you might have been doing this job for 25 or 26 years, there's somebody who's literally just starting last year.
Right.
So while you might not learn a new large technical skill, hopefully you're always learning how to teach people better because we're getting different people in every day, or you're learning something or you're teaching something which makes you learn it better. So I think it just changes shapes. Maybe it doesn't ever stop. It just changes shapes kind of thing.
And then you shift over to your crew.
So that is the nice part though, is like if you're a decently performing officer, then you do get to teach more because then you get to bring your crew not up to your level, but like you get to continuously push them forward,
right?
Which is something I really enjoy doing. So it gives you the opportunity to do that, and also like let them lead. Like it lets them teach stuff. Now I'll go to my driver and he'll teach us aerial operations, because he's the pro at it, and I'm first in it, but I'm not the pro in it. So it'd be false for me to get up there and teach him aerial operations. So yeah, it's just a whole thing where it just keeps evolving. It's a big circular shark tank of awesomeness, hopefully. But yeah, I've said it time and time again. Like, it's nice to have an all-star on your team. It helps, but that's not going to win the game. Like, you need some well-rounded lines on your team, right? So even if you have a B and C player, they hold a lot of value, and sometimes you need a donkey. Like, he might not be the smartest guy or the fastest, but he can carry stuff, and that's what you need sometimes, right? So it's all about that crew resource management thing, putting the right players in the right seats on the bus and all those taglines. But that's a very cool perspective to shift. That person also had a second one about discipline, which I think is just crazy. Like, it's just bananas.
Yeah.
And he said essentially that early on in his career, he was wildly afraid of losing his job, right? And
Afraid of punishment.
Afraid of punishment, losing his job. What am I going to do? I'd be screwed, blah, blah, blah. And then as he got older, he became more secure of, like, no big deal if I get
Finding
punished.
Finding peace in it.
Yeah, I'll use it to learn.
I don't think it was, like, meant to be, like, if he got fired, though. I think it was more of, like...
He understands that if he's getting punished, something went wrong.
Yeah, but like, to make him better.
I thought that was so backwards, man, because, like, in the beginning, I'm like, what are you going to do? Like, fire me?
Well, right.
Opportunity. The world is my oyster. I'll go test somewhere else.
I'll go somewhere, especially nowadays.
And now I'm terrified to make a mistake because I have to feed Nathan.
Yeah.
But so I think that's so backwards. I wish I went through the progression he did, but I was the opposite, right? I was way more cavalier early on, and now I'm way more cognizant of my, well, I shouldn't say that because I still do dumb stuff and run my mouth, but I'm aware of when I run my mouth. Well, now. I'm not just brushing it off.
I think you know your line.
Yeah.
You know your line. So, yeah, that is a good perspective shift. And probably a hard one, too.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, you don't do that until you get burned by it, or you have to because you're responsible for other stuff, right?
Yeah.
I caused a lot of problems for my acting officer when I was a blue shirt because...
So why and when did that change?
When I had to become an acting officer.
That's when that changed? It didn't change before?
No, it did, because after a while he's like, these things are funny, but they're kind of screwing me up. And I was like, no way. And then they were. And then it took a few talkings too, and I softened it. You know, I policed it a little bit more. But then, yeah, you have to transition at some
So what
point.
happens when you're the officer and you get someone like you? Do you deal with it the same way your officer dealt with it for you, or would you have changed it?
No, my officer dealt with it a really good, effective way. Like, he didn't say, like, I'm going to start writing you up for being an idiot, and he didn't write me off, or he didn't try to beat it out of me. Mm-hmm. He used, like, logic of, like, I get it, and this is funny stuff, but this is not helping me right now. And he appealed to me on a personal level, which then I was like, sorry, buddy. Like, I didn't mean to screw you. Like, I'm just trying to have fun. Mm-hmm. He's like, me too, and this is not it. So,
this is not it.
So, no, I handle it the same way. I've done that with at least one person in the past. I'd be like, you might not see a problem with what you're doing, and that's fine. If you want to make problems, go for it. But make problems that don't cause problems for me. How about that?
Yeah.
And usually they're like, yeah, I didn't.
One of those, like,
I have a problem with
don't make
that guy,
me
not
be
with
the
you.
boss, or
kinda
want it, like, until I have to be the boss. Don't make me be the boss.
More or less, but, like, the problem typically isn't with you. You're just collateral because you're supervising them, or you're around when it happened, right? So you get in trouble for it. But they have a problem with someone else, and they're lashing out at someone else, but you're in the way of it, or you're involved in it. Yeah. So you just make it clear, like, you trying to go after this guy over there is screwing me right here, so please stop. And that's just one scenario, right?
Yeah.
But you had a perspective that changed greatly, which I think is pretty interesting. I didn't think about it. I mean, you didn't think about it either.
No, I didn't think about it.
So go into that for a little bit.
So, a friend of mine and I ended up at a all-women conference for a class we wanted to take. And, you know, when we signed up for it, we were kind of confused because we thought there was more things you would be able to sign up for, and we thought that it would be more fire tactic related, which, I mean, there was some classes here and there for fire tactics. And not like you would see at FDIC, not like how you would experience at another conference, firemanship, anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, all their hot classes were on one day. You had to choose one. You couldn't do any of the other ones because it all, like, intermeshed with each other. And we went to the opening. And, again, I apologize to any listeners. This is not to offend anybody. I just want to make it clear that I have absolutely zero problems with LGBTQ and that community and all of that. I frankly don't care. This is not to offend anybody.
It's a non-factor.
Non-factor. So, it was very much geared more towards DEI, how to navigate yourself as a woman in the fire service, It was very almost like women empowerment. Like we actually ended up walking out of the opening conference and we're like, we're just going to go to our hot class and then go hike for the rest of the time. Because, I mean, imagine if there was an all men's conference, like hands would be thrown up, and it wasn't even that. I didn't mind it, right? At that time, I didn't care that it was an all women thing, but then I cared because of what it was, what they perceive, not perceived, but
I felt like there's an underlying tone of like,
yes.
not victimhood, but like,
yeah, like it was just very, I don't know, it was uncomfortable, and it was like, I am woman, hear me roar, and my friend and I and my other friend I had talked to, we're not those people. We are not
like I could see that for like a keynote, right, to kick it off.
Well, right, but
that's it. Like then you get to the stuff.
Yeah, and it was just, that's fine.
Yeah.
But don't make the whole thing, and then like I told you before, the whole DEI thing pisses me off anyway, just because, not that I'm against DEI, but because people don't understand really what DEI is.
Yeah.
And so that's what pisses me off. Like you said before, it's not DEI, it's the departments that bend to appease.
Yeah.
And so, anywho, long story short, I didn't care, whatever. I was talking to my friend who is a lieutenant now, a new promoted lieutenant, and she's the one who actually changed my perspective on this. And she said, technically, when you go to these things, you're doing a disservice to both women and the people that you work with. And I agreed with that. And I was like, oh my God, like I've never really thought about it like that. And she's absolutely right, because now we're teaching these women who aren't comfortable with the people that they're working with to come to a safe place, quote unquote, to not be under pressure and to do all these things. If you have a problem performing under high stress, to me, maybe it isn't the job for you. And that's just like my opinion on that, because you will always be under high stress, whether it's around men. Like if you knew that being underneath men was going to put high pressure, high stress on you, first of all, why'd you walk into a male-dominated field? Because you should have known that when you walked in. And I just feel like it almost coddles women to be, it doesn't put them in a good place where they should be and how they feel with their coworkers when they're on a fireground scene or if they're at training or something like that.
Do you think it instills a sense of doubt in women when they go back to their departments?
100%. I think it does that. I think that it's going to then make a negative perspective more on men in the fire service. And I just don't think it's good. I think if you want to do trainings like that, it should absolutely be co-ed.
So it's almost going to, in an effort to push women forward, they may almost create a bias against
100%.
basically the entire field.
100%.
Yeah.
How are you pushing women forward by allowing them to only feel safe around only women?
Sure.
So that completely flipped my perspective. Totally.
Yeah.
So
that's a tricky one, man. That's a very tricky one, because you want to see people happy, right? And you want to see people feel secure so they can perform. And I suppose in that context, they will feel more secure, so maybe they will perform. But then once they leave that environment, I guess maybe they didn't get the tools to perform in the other environment, which is going to be the majority of their career.
So what are you helping them, right? So they can still do the job, right? But if they can only do the job in front of women, can they really do the job?
Right.
No.
I don't know. Hopefully some people were going there because they're like, I don't feel comfortable and I need to get a few reps in so I can go back and feel comfortable.
With the people. Yeah. I
right.
mean.
So I can okay, maybe I'll get a few, but that falls to the other part of it though. Like if you say I don't feel comfortable throwing the 24, I'm going to go to this seminar, women only seminar. So at least when I screw up, it's a bunch of women around me and I feel more secure there, whatever the reason is, right? I can justify. I can be like, okay, that's fine. Like, go ahead. I'd rather to internalize it, like if I was a new firefighter, I'd say I want to go to a conference where it's all 1 to 3 year firefighters making the same 1 to 3 year firefighter mistake. I don't want to go to a conference where there's like 20-year guys laughing at me for not being able to throw a ladder. So I can kind of understand the parallel thinking there with that. But that also doesn't sound like what it was, because if it was that, it would be like 20 breakout sessions of let's work on your skills. So when you go back, you feel more confident in this environment.
Yeah.
I can understand where that would be frustrating.
Yeah. So, not for me. I probably won't ever attend again.
Yeah.
So that perspective definitely flipped. Now, if they changed that conference and made it more of a networking thing.
Okay.
So I was the only woman for a while, and then some people came in, and then women left, and I keep an arm's length with my coworkers. Not that I don't like
not
them.
like a negative way.
Not in a negative way.
Yeah.
It's I respect my spouse and I respect their spouses. And so I'm not going to be texting them every day and going out, one-on-one with them or whatever it may be. There's a fine line and an arm's length that I keep out of respect for all of that. And so it is very hard sometimes when you are one of the only women and you don't necessarily have friends because you're an introvert and you're all other friends dumped you because they don't understand your schedule. So it is hard to network. And so if they change it in that way, I would love to meet other badass women who can do the job and who understand the schedule, understand the job, understand the respect portion between, the male, female, whatever. I would love that. But unfortunately, that wasn't how that was.
You don't need a pep rally for 5 days.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah. So that was a big perspective change.
That's a good one. I like that one because it you want to hope that the people putting on these things aren't just like a money grab preying on women and saying like you should come here because you're safe here. Come listen to us talk.
That's what I hate.
Pay us money. You would hope that it's not that nefarious, right? But it's good to know that like you really got to pay attention because something that specific, you just got to. I guess you got to pay attention.
Yeah,
to it.
and we did nozzle forward, which was. I learned so much, and so that was it. It was a great class. It was a really great class.
Yeah.
So, and then we were like, okay, we're just gonna hike for the rest of the time.
Sure. All right. Well, I had my perspective changed, and we'll keep this kind of brief because we want to get to your probationary one. Okay. I don't know if you know that when we talked about this last time, I didn't tell you I'm getting a new guy on Monday.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, we're going to Firefighter tomorrow actually for his final 2 weeks of days.
Oh, okay.
And then Monday he starts as the fourth man on our quint. Fourth man.
Are you excited?
Fourth
my
person.
gosh, you guys you guys follow the NFPA?
So what we do is we have 3-person suppression rigs, but then for the first 5 to 10 shifts, depending on need, we'll put them fourth so they can be married up with the back step.
Oh, gotcha.
So they're shadowing. They're a functioning member of the crew, but they're extra.
Oh, okay.
So
they're still allowed to do everything.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but they get the benefit of just sticking side by side with the established back end person.
Okay, that's nice because they get mentors, or no?
Not. You're said
the mentor.
Okay, like the crew is.
Go on.
Anyways, before we get to that, labor. My perspective changed on the union and labor in general, and I'll keep this brief. I came from a paid-on-call part-time department. Then I was a contract medic. Then I was a full-time in one place. Then another place. And my view on with labor in all 4 or 5 of those places, it was different. When I was part-time, it was like, we're going to go to the good old days parade, and we're going to do the thing and run the corn tent or whatever it was, and then we're going to go back and the station bathroom broke, so we're going to fix that, and then we're going to paint the day room, and then we're going to do this, and I'll donate time here, and I'll do this for the good of the department because it's small. There's like 6 at the time, 3 full-timers, and the rest of us were paid on call, so it was like our department, right?
Yeah.
Flash forward to a full-time department, and I'm like, hey, let's go power wash the patio. And they're like, no, building maintenance does that. We're not doing that. I'm like, oh boy, this is a different world, right? So, but that comes from, unfortunately, the environment you're in, what you believe the city's prerogative is, what the department's prerogative is, what your job roles and responsibilities are, your burden, your call volume, your burnout. And it gets to a point where it can be very standoffish with labor and stuff like that. And we actually have to remind some guys sometimes of like, hey, we can tighten the knobs on cabinets. Like, it's okay. If the cabinet's knob is loose, we can get a screwdriver and tighten the knob. It's
$5.
Fine. Yeah, it's like we're not taking someone's job away by doing this. But that took a lot of figuring out because there was a lot of times I'll be like, I'll just do that, or I'll bring in this, or I'll I'll fix that or whatever, And guys were like, no, we have, and I don't want to speak too frankly on my department because it's a long history of conflict that's gone now, by and large. By and large, it could not be more different than it was back then. But we would get guys that'd be like, nope, they pay me to run calls and be here from 7 to 7, and that's what I'm doing. And anything beyond that, because there was such disagreement between the labor management side, right? And I struggle with that, coming from that background of like the community firehouse. And
well, because I feel like when you do stuff, right, when you're offering to do things or fix, that's a sense of pride.
It is, but it's also just like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
But then you learn like, well, at one point in history, they had us repaint the entire station because they wanted to save money by hiring painters. So we were forced to paint the entire station, not because we wanted to, but because the chief said, I'm not paying $20,000 for painters to come in. You guys are going to do it. So it was a form of not punishment, but like it was a forced thing.
Like being used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but all that stuff filters into it, right? And there's a middle ground in there somewhere, but understanding and respecting the history of your department and the labor relations was a big learning curve for me. And I still navigate it to this day, where I need to be reeled back in of like donating time or doing too much or doing stuff without asking the right questions. Like, is this going to be overtime? And if it's not, don't do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel great sometimes to be like, yeah, I'll do that. Is it overtime? And then they're like, well, no, can you just do it? I can. It doesn't feel great. So my perspective on that has changed. It's still changing. I mean, I don't mean to put any seeds of doubt in there. By and large, and you asked this question before, being part of a union department is far better. And I should say with our particular union and our labor management relationship and who we have running it, I'd much rather be a part of a union now than not part of a union. But it's its own animal. It's its own different thing. And change and being able to understand that is its own perspective journey as well. Yeah. So that's been a big one.
I'm sure.
That's been a big one for
me.
Tell me about probationary people.
Yeah. So when we started this podcast, I had a perspective on it. I did talk to a couple of coworkers too to kind of see what their perspectives of it were. It turns out I have way too much empathy, but
okay, good.
Basically, I never really understood you go send these people through fire academy, whatnot. They're in these classes, and in these classes, they're told how sleep is so important, nutrition is so important, all this like health stuff, right? Mental health, etc. And then you throw them in their, first year probation, and hey, guess what? You can't work out on shift. You have to be the first one up. I don't care if you're up, if we're up all night. You're the first one up to make the coffee, to do the dishes, last one to go to sleep, first one to get up to eat. Like there's all these rules, right? There's all these like expected rules because you're a probie. And so I was just saying that I never really understood that because for me, how this person is going to clean a toilet isn't going to gain trust or earn trust and respect from me. It's going to be out there on the street.
Sure.
Is how this person is going to show me that they're taking initiative and that they're helping and that they're a team player and all that stuff. I guess I never viewed the station like something as simple as chores. I never really personally viewed that as a task, like an important task,
useful thing.
Like a useful thing. I never really looked at it that way. And so, why don't you dive into your perspective that has now kind of changed my perspective on that?
So my thing, the first time you brought this up, it was very much like, who cares, right? Like, who cares if they do or don't clean the toilet? I want to make sure they can run calls and like help me if I need it. The emergency is what matters. And I agree. But I think there's just so many ways to communicate what the probie's job is. And I am not against the traditional probie burden. Like cleaning the bathrooms, vacuuming, doing all the house duties, making sure the rig is clean, going above and beyond, kind of being the mother hen of the station. I'm totally fine with. But it depends on how you sell it. And I don't mean to sell it as like try to scheme something or get away with something, but it depends on how you communicate. If you say, you're the probie, so you're our bitch for the next year, that's one way to do it. Like, you're the lowest, you're whale scum, you're holding up whale scum on the surface of the ocean kind of thing. That's one way, right? If you say like, hey, we all have our pieces of this pie to contribute. My job is this, your job is that. We all did that job. Now it's your turn to do that job. And doesn't make you less. It just means that that's your role. And that at one point in time, that was my driver's role. And now he's not that. He's the driver. And then one time that was the medic's role. And they're not that. They're on the ambulance today. The spot you're in, that's the designated duty for that day. And just because it's cleaning toilets or emptying trash, I'm not going to lie and be like, that doesn't mean it's less than any other job in the department. It functionally is less important, right, than making sure your monitor has a battery in that and your hose loads are packed, right? But it's still a part of the job.
Right.
And I don't fall into my way of thinking of what you said before in a different conversation of like how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Right.
But as an officer, I can tell you that I want to make sure that they're willing to do the things they don't want to do or they consider menial or junk.
Right.
For two reasons. First of all, it's a directly observable thing. Like if they tell me that's not important to me, but they still do a really good job at it, I can have a lot of belief in that person that there's going to be a time on a call where there's going to be something they don't want to do or a function they don't want to carry out, but they're still going to do it with a little bit of pride and a little bit of diligence, right? Whether that's gross patient care stuff or nuisance fireground stuff, right? The unsexy, boring stuff. Like, we got to go do this. At least I know I can count on them to put some effort towards it on that. The second part of it is, and it being directly observable, is you can see if they did or didn't do it. And there was a conflict a while ago with one of our probationary people who blatantly lied about the things that they were doing. And it was so ridiculously observable that they did not do what they were telling that they did, that it ended up being a major issue for them. So I'm totally in line with all the traditional probationary stuff, as long as you're not just using them as a donkey.
Yeah.
And like, good, we finally have someone to do our spring cleaning for us. Thank God you're here. Go do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a piece of their daily operations. It's not their sole purpose.
Yeah.
And there's certainly crews and stations that abuse that, right? And they want them to do all the cleaning, but they don't invest anything in their training or skill or progression. That's dumb. Like, that's a terrible way to do it, and those people are jokes, right? That's not the way we do it.
Yeah.
That's a piece of their day that it's a checkbox thing, and it has to get checked, but we're still observing it and grading it. And let's make sure we got the foundation there and we're off and running kind of thing, right?
That's definitely, I mean, I didn't look at it like that, and I'm sure, in an officer, lieutenant position, obviously plays a whole different role than how I see it as a blue shirt. So. Well,
yeah, and that's just, it also gets you a little bit of empathy too, like your time in the barrel, you may hate doing it, and you may be like, these guys literally pee on the seat on purpose, so I have to clean it off, right? Well, maybe you won't pee on the seat then when you are a probationary person. Or
do you
maybe
want to hear something really funny?
Is it?
I have
must
to say
be related to that.
It kind of is. It's really funny. So when I started, I was the only female, and so after I would pee, I would put the toilet seat up for the rest of them.
So courteous.
I was very courteous.
That's very courteous. Now, on the flip side of that, what I remember too was, like I said, I don't fall in line with the how you do one thing is how you do everything thing, right? But on the lying side of that, which is why that guy got in trouble, like, if you're willing to lie about that little thing, then you have no limits to what you're willing to lie about.
No, that's terrible.
Right? So it's kind of a character catch, and there's also nothing to say, like, everybody starts at square one, right? And square one is learning how to clean the toilets or whatever it is, whatever subservient task that has to get done. And I say subservient only in the grand leader of thing, the grand scale of things. There's nothing to say that after the first week or two, when my guy's got a ton of stuff to do, we're not going to divvy the chores up and say, like, this is still your job, but this is how this crew works, is we're going to help you because you got a lot to do today. Now, next day you come in, you're back to, this is your job. We all have our jobs to do. We're just doing extra to help you out in this moment kind of thing, you know? So it really falls back on the crew, the leadership.
For sure.
What the goal is. Is the goal to have them clean toilets, or is the goal to make them a functioning member of the crew that you can ship out and know that when you ship them to the captain is he's gonna clean the toilets for the captain, who doesn't have my perspective.
Totally
right?
get that. Yeah, I have to say, like, my lieutenant on my last shift was awesome. We ended up bright and early in the morning doing a drill, and if we didn't get, so it was basically pulling the engine out, pulling the skid load, getting it up the mezzanine, and then out spraying it out the bay door. And he was to do 50 burpees, or I'm sorry, 40 burpees.
Far too many.
If he said if he didn't get to 40 burpees by the time that we were done, that he would do all the chores for the day. And so that's what ended up happening. And so he did all the chores that day.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And he does a really good job making shift fun.
Yeah.
And not, even if you are like a probie or you're someone newer or something like that, like he doesn't necessarily make you feel like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's expectations and stuff, and that's fine, but he did he does a really good job.
That's good.
Doing that. It's great.
And I like that. I have no problem with those traditions.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're a negative thing. I think you obviously can take it too far and be an idiot about it, right?
And I think that's the problem.
But like instilling those things, a high hat badge thing, we had a thing forever, and it largely went away. I'm not sure why, but we had a high hat badge saying, basically, which is whenever you saw something that you didn't want to do, you'd be like, get the high hat badge, which meant the newest person because they were the highest number. And that was like the job. Even on scene, be like, that gross thing has to be touched. Be like, who's high hat badge in here?
Oh my
and you
God.
would stick the person on it.
Nose goes.
Right? Yeah. And but I like even that stuff I don't see a problem with, because that's your rung in the ladder right now.
Yeah.
And eventually be able to change that. We're all working together.
My empathy, though, is just still so horribly there that I would just be like, I'll help you. With like all of it. Like
Yeah, you can.
I don't know.
You can, you should. That's your relationship to have with that person.
Now, does your perspective, though, change a little bit at all if, let's say your probie has as someone who is a father, has newborn babies at home, or newborn baby has kids, like, isn't getting sleep at night and then is coming in and then now they're not getting sleep. Like, do you change that for them at all? Do you say, hey, man, like, don't worry about getting up in the morning, like, I got the dishes? Or does someone... Maybe obviously you're a lieutenant, so that's like a different role. Or would you expect someone more senior to be like, hey man, don't worry about it. Like, I'll get the dishes in the morning, like get sleep if you can. Or do you think it's just like, well, this is what you chose and this is what the year is going to be like. Sorry. Like
a little bit of both. His job can't change because he has responsibilities outside the job,
right. But I meant like those little tasks, like those like home tasks.
Yeah, no. Because it's still his job.
Okay.
Right? That's still... But that's not to say... It's neither of those two extremes, right? Like everything else in the world, it's in the middle somewhere. Where what we may be more effective and useful for that person is guidance on how to soften that blow a little bit. So, like, if it's a 24-year-old kid with no overhead or kids... or nothing, I'm like, don't care. You'll be fine. Right? Figure it out, buddy. You're going to be sleepy. I'm sorry. If a guy comes in with 2 kids who's in his 30s or whatever, I have the tools to be like, hey, I went through that when I didn't have kids, but I have kids now. Here's some stuff that I do off shift, or here's some stuff that you can try that might help you. You still got to do your job. You still got to do all the stuff. But here's some things that we can work on, or tips I can give you from working at this specific department that can help you through this first year, because it's going to be tough.
Sure.
So no, I wouldn't change the job. Of course, as you get deeper in the year, you can help the person. There's no rules that say like you are not allowed to help a probationary person, right?
Right.
All that stuff is a gray area. If you feel like they're a great person and they do a great job and they're having a tough couple of days, you should help them. You need this person after they get off probation. You can't treat them like garbage for a year and then be like, hey, guess what? You're off probation. You're our best friend now. And then everything we did that's bad to you doesn't count because you were just an idiot then, right? Like flip the light switch, Men in Black like flash ya. So no, you should be helping that person. But the job is their job.
Yeah.
Like I can't let my driver come in who just had a kid a couple of years ago and be like, I'm not doing my job today. Can you do part of my job because I'm tired? Like, no. Yeah.
All right.
Guess what? 46 minutes.
Oh my God. How did that happen again?
I don't know. Get us out of here.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening. Don't forget, buy me a coffee button, please, because none of you guys have supported. So here I am yelling at you to support us, please. Catch us at FDIC.
I'm not mad at you. Angie is. She's mad at you. I'm still your friend. I think your pit vipers look great. Push the button.
I'm sure. Okay. Hot topics, hot coffee.
All right.
Tailboard Talks. Bye. Stay sharp.